All right, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be
Oh,
exploring.
this is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty out there.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring a mind-bending view of the universe, and this isn't from like a physicist or astronomer.
Right.
This is from a game designer
Yeah.
named Reactorcore. And our source material for today's deep dive is Reactorcore's game design article
Okay.
titled "My View on the Universe: Life and Death PT1.pdf."
Catchy.
Yeah, now you might be thinking, what does game design have to do with the universe?
Yeah. I had the same thought at first.
Yeah, exactly. My thought too. But trust me, this is going to be pretty interesting.
All right, I'm ready.
Reactor Core kind of ditches the usual textbook theories and dives headfirst into the Big Bang, the meaning of existence, and even has their own unique model of the universe called the Bowl universe.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going to unpack all of that today.
I'm excited.
It's definitely an unconventional source, but that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
Reactor Core, even though they're coming from game design, they grapple with some pretty serious, big scientific concepts.
Yeah,
And it really makes you rethink our place in the cosmos.
for sure.
So the central question driving our deep dive today is,
Okay.
if the universe is truly infinite and eternal, as Reactor Core suggests, how does that change the way we understand life, death, and our own place in this whole cosmic dance?
Let's find out.
Let's jump in.
Okay.
So Reactor Core's main argument is that the universe is infinite
Okay.
and eternal and the beginning, no end.
Right.
They're basically saying the Big Bang, which we often think of as the start of everything,
Yeah.
is actually just one event in a much grander, never-ending story.
I see. So it's not like a start. It's just
Yeah, it's not really a start.
one event of many.
It's kind of like a reset button than a true beginning.
Oh, like a refresh.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Reactor Core even proposes two possible triggers for these Big Bang events.
Okay, what are they?
All right, so the first trigger is when there's an extreme buildup of matter, like a supermassive black hole collapsing on itself under its own gravity.
Oh, wow.
The second is when there's a region totally empty of matter, like a cosmic vacuum.
Okay.
Both of these scenarios, according to Reactor Core, would lead to a cosmic reset or a Big Bang.
So it's like too much stuff or
Too much stuff.
or not enough stuff.
Not enough stuff. Either way, something's got to give.
And then boom, reset.
Exactly. Okay, I'm following.
So it's like the universe is constantly going through these cycles of expansion and contraction with big bangs happening periodically throughout.
Whoa, that's a lot to think about.
It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
It is.
Makes me think of that saying, what goes up must come down.
Yeah,
Maybe it applies to the universe on a grand scale.
I like that.
And Reactor Core actually compares the Big Bang to a kind of cosmic plumbing system.
Cosmic plumbing.
Yeah.
All right, tell me more.
So imagine a clogged pipe. Eventually you need to unclog it to restore balance and get things flowing smoothly again.
Right. Or think about how your body heals a wound. It's a process of restoring equilibrium.
Yeah, makes sense.
Reactor Core sees the Big Bang as something similar. It's a way for the universe to bring balance to areas where there's either too much matter or not enough.
So it's like a self-regulating system?
Exactly. It's like the universe's way of hitting the reset button.
Okay, so it's not chaos. It's actually
It's organized chaos.
organized chaos. I like it.
Yeah.
So instead of one singular beginning, we're looking at a universe that's constantly adjusting and rebalancing itself.
Mm-hmm. Through these Big Bang events.
That's wild.
That definitely challenges the traditional view.
For sure.
And to illustrate just how vast the universe is, Reactor Core includes this image from a supercomputer simulation.
Okay.
It shows this incredible web of interconnected superclusters, basically giant groups of galaxies spanning unimaginable distances.
Wow.
To give you an idea, if each galaxy was like a seed,
Okay.
these superclusters would be like the dense patches in a loaf of bread where like lots of seeds clump together.
Oh, I see. I like that analogy.
Yeah, and that image really drives home Reactor Core's point, even a Big Bang, which to us is an event of unimaginable scale, and power is just a tiny blip in an infinite universe.
Yeah, that puts things in perspective.
It does, and on that note, Reactor Core also takes issue with the idea of the heat death of the universe.
Okay.
So that's the theory that the universe will eventually run out of energy,
Right.
and everything will just fade away.
Yeah, like a slow fade out.
Right. But Reactor Core points out that we're limited by what we can observe.
I mean, that's true. We can only see so much.
Exactly. We can only see a tiny fraction of the universe, the observable universe.
Right.
Reactor Core is basically saying we've barely scratched the surface. Who are we to say what happens beyond what we can see?
Yeah, good point.
So the takeaway here is that the Big Bang might not be the beginning of everything, just a reset in a much bigger story.
Okay.
And the universe might be far more complex and dynamic than we currently understand.
So much more to learn.
Now let's move on to something called the Bowl
So
universe.
the Bowl universe.
Yeah, this is a model that Reactorcore uses in their game designs.
Yeah.
And they actually use this model to represent a practically infinite universe
Okay.
within the limits of a computer game.
I mean, that makes sense. You can't really program infinity.
You can't program infinity exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine a bowl.
Okay.
The flat bottom of the bowl is what they call the active zone.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you would find permanent locations, civilizations, all the stuff that makes a structured universe.
Okay.
But surrounding this active zone is a vast wilderness that's procedurally generated.
Procedurally generated.
So it means the computer creates it algorithmically as you explore.
Oh, that's cool. Like those games where the landscape keeps expanding as you go further.
Exactly.
Okay, I see.
And things in this wilderness can drift in and out, get rearranged and change constantly.
So it's like a dynamic, ever-changing universe within a defined space.
Exactly. Kind of like a microcosm of Reactorcore's view of the actual universe.
Oh, that's interesting.
And Reactorcore actually explains why they preferred this model over truly infinite game worlds.
Okay.
Like some games that just keep generating land forever.
Yeah.
Like Minecraft.
Yeah.
We talk about issues like running out of disk space, huge areas of the game world going unused.
Yeah, it's a lot of wasted space, potentially.
Yeah, and players getting lost or bored in a limitless environment.
Yeah, need some structure.
It needs some structure, exactly. So it's about finding a balance between the concept of infinity and what's actually practical.
Right.
The Bowl universe allows for a dynamic and evolving universe that reflects Reactorcore's idea of an eternal cosmos,
Okay.
but within a manageable framework.
I see.
It's a really neat way to think about infinity, especially when you're trying to represent it in a game.
Yeah, for sure.
And here's where things get really mind-bending.
Oh, maybe.
When Reactorcore designs a universe for their games,
Hmm.
they don't start with the Big Bang at all.
What?
Instead, they start things in motion. The universe is generated in a state of equilibrium with galaxies already formed, stars already shining. It's like pressing play on a universe that's already humming along.
So like skipping ahead.
Like fast-forwarding past the boring part.
Okay, so why do they do that?
And their reasoning makes sense from a gameplay perspective. Starting with a Big Bang would mean players would be staring at nothing but particles and dust for ages.
Right, not very exciting.
Not very exciting. An in-motion start, on the other hand, throws players right into a vibrant, dynamic universe.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense from a gameplay perspective.
Exactly.
To keep people engaged.
So they're not just thinking about the theoretical concepts of the universe,
Yeah,
but also how to make those concepts engaging and fun for players.
it's a cool approach.
It's a really interesting approach.
Yeah.
Now, if they're not starting with a Big Bang, what's Reactorcore's take on the origin of the universe?
Yeah, what do they think happened?
Well, they put forward this hypothetical scenario
Okay.
where the universe simply willed itself into existence.
It's a kind of uniform mesh of matter and antimatter.
Right.
And over vast periods, this mesh was shaped by natural forces into the cosmos we see today.
So it just kind of popped into being.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold idea,
It is.
but it sounds like they're not necessarily claiming to know the definitive answer.
Yeah. I mean, who really knows?
Right. Reactorcore acknowledges that the true origin of the universe is probably a mystery we'll never fully solve, but they're not afraid to speculate and explore different possibilities.
Right. It's good to be open-minded.
Exactly. And they emphasize the vastness and potential of the universe we do have,
Yeah.
rather than getting hung up on how it all began.
That's a good point. Focus on what we know.
Right. So it's more about focusing on the now and what we can learn from the universe as it exists,
Yeah.
rather than getting bogged down in these unanswerable questions about the past.
Makes sense.
And one more important point before we move on.
Okay.
Reactorcore completely rejects the idea that humanity is the center of it all.
They see us as just one player in this grand cosmic game, not the main character.
That's a humbling thought.
It is. It's a humbling thought.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We've explored Reactorcore's challenging view of the Big Bang, their unique Bowl universe model, and their approach to simulating a universe in motion.
A lot to take in.
It's clear that Reactorcore, even though coming from the world of game design, has given a lot of thought to the big questions of the universe.
Yeah, they're clearly thinking outside the box.
But our journey isn't over yet.
Right.
We still need to dive into Reactorcore's thoughts on life and death
Oh, okay.
and how those concepts fit into their vision of an infinite and eternal universe That's where things get really interesting.
Oh, I can't wait.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive.
All right, I'll be here. Welcome back to our deep dive into Reactorcore's mind. I love this bowl universe idea.
Yeah, it's a really neat concept, right? And I think it's interesting how Reactorcore is not just like, focused on making a fun game, but they're also thinking about these bigger philosophical questions.
Yeah, totally.
Like, where do we fit in this whole thing?
I think a lot of game designers are kind of like low-key philosophers.
Yeah, maybe there's a connection there.
They're building these worlds, they're thinking about systems.
Right.
And it kind of makes you think about the real world in a different way.
Totally. And this idea of like simulating a vast, ever-changing universe within a defined space, it actually reminded me of how scientists are studying our own universe right now.
Oh, in what way?
So, cosmologists, they use these incredibly powerful computer simulations to try to study how the universe evolved. And these simulations have to take into account an unbelievable amount of data.
I bet.
Everything from where galaxies are located to how dark matter and dark energy behave.
Oh, wow.
It's a massive undertaking.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But just like Reactorcore has to set boundaries for their game universes, scientists have to work within the limits of how powerful their computers are.
Right. Makes sense.
They can't simulate a universe that's infinitely large.
Yeah.
So they create these virtual boxes of space and time, much like that bull model we were talking about.
Oh, interesting.
So it's kind of like both game designers and scientists are grappling with this concept of infinity, each working within their own sets of constraints.
That's a cool connection.
Yeah, it is.
It really highlights how even though we might have different tools and approaches, we're ultimately all just trying to wrap our heads around the same vast and mysterious universe.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to circle back to something that Reactorcore mentioned earlier.
Okay.
This idea that Big Bangs are localized events, almost like a cosmic reset button.
Yeah.
And they even suggest that in the distant future, we might actually be able to detect signs of another Big Bang happening near us.
Whoa. Okay, that's a wild thought.
Right.
It's very speculative.
It is very speculative, but it does make you think.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what if we could actually detect a Big Bang about to happen in our cosmic neighborhood?
Right, what would we even do?
What would we do?
I don't know, run.
Like, could we harness the energy of a Big Bang? Or would we have to, like, try to escape its destructive force?
I don't know. I'm not a physicist, but I think I'd rather try to escape it.
Yeah, probably safer.
Yeah, but I love that you're thinking about the implications.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly the kind of imaginative thinking that Reactorcore's perspective encourages.
Right.
It's not about knowing all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's about asking the right questions and just being open to new possibilities.
Totally. And speaking of possibilities, Reactorcore also mentions this idea of humanity achieving physical immortality.
Oh, wow. They're just throwing out all the big ideas.
I know, right? And it makes me wonder if we could actually achieve immortality, wouldn't that completely change our relationship with the universe?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, would we be more or less concerned about a Big Bang if we knew we could potentially survive it?
That's a good question. I mean, it would definitely change our priorities.
Right.
Like, if we took away the fear of death, what would become truly important when time is no longer a factor?
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
It is. It's really interesting, though.
Yeah,
It's like Reactorcore is challenging us to think beyond our current limitations,
Yeah.
both as individuals and as a species.
All right, so we've explored the bowl universe, this idea of localized Big Bangs, even touched on the potential for human immortality.
What's next?
Now, I'm curious about Reactorcore's thoughts on the origins of the universe.
Okay, like how they think it all began.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
So they're not claiming to have all the answers.
I mean, that's fair.
In fact, they admit that the true origin of the universe is probably a mystery we'll never fully solve.
Probably.
But that doesn't stop them from exploring some possibilities.
Okay. So what do they think?
So they suggest that the universe might have simply willed itself into existence
Okay.
as this like uniform blend of matter and antimatter,
All right.
which then slowly evolved over eons into the complex cosmos we observe today.
So like it just kind of popped into being.
It's a pretty radical concept.
It is.
And they even mention the possibility of higher beings,
Oh,
or even our own souls being involved in the creation of the universe.
wow. They're really going all out with the idea.
I know, right? They're drawing from a lot of different sources.
Yeah, it's cool.
Clearly.
It's like they're saying, we may never know for sure how it all began, but let's appreciate the amazing reality we find ourselves in regardless.
Totally. Like, focus on the now. Focus on what we have.
Makes sense.
So does Reactorcore, ultimately have a specific belief system about the universe?
Yeah, are they like spiritual or religious or something?
They don't really explicitly state, a definitive belief system. It's more like a way of thinking,
Right.
like an approach to the universe with a sense of wonder and a willingness to challenge conventional ideas.
I like that.
Yeah, and a healthy dose of skepticism, too.
Yeah, for sure. You got to question everything.
Right. They're not afraid to question established theories, even ones as fundamental as the Big Bang.
Right.
And they encourage us to look beyond the observable universe and entertain the possibility of a much grander, more complex reality than we currently imagine.
I think it's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that even in science, there's always room for new discoveries and revising our understanding.
Exactly. Dogma has no place in the pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it also just highlights the importance of staying curious.
Yeah.
Constantly asking, what if? And exploring possibilities beyond the limits of what we currently know.
Totally. It's like a spirit of intellectual exploration
Yeah.
and open-mindedness.
All right, so we've been through some pretty mind-blowing territory with Reactorcore.
Yeah.
We've explored their bowl universe model, pondered the possibility of localized Big Bangs, and even touched on the potential for human immortality.
And there's still one more crucial piece of the puzzle.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, Reactorcore's views on life and death. And how those concepts fit into this grand, eternal universe.
All right, can't wait to hear it.
That's where things get really profound. So join us for the final part of our deep dive as we delve into these really heavy concepts.
I'm ready when you are.
Welcome back, deep divers, to the final part of our exploration into Reactorcore's unique perspective on the universe.
I'm ready to dive back in.
We've already traveled through their ideas about the Big Bang.
Right, not a beginning, but a reset.
Yeah, a reset, their intriguing bowl universe model. We even pondered the potential for humans to achieve immortality.
Some really big concepts.
Now we're going to tackle, I think, the biggest questions of them all.
Okay, lay it on me.
What does Reactorcore have to say about life and death?
Right.
How do those concepts fit into their vision of this vast and eternal universe?
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they go with this.
So this is where Reactorcore's ideas get really profound. Remember, they're working from this idea that the universe is eternal and constantly change. Big bangs are localized events.
Right.
Not the start or finish of everything.
Yeah, like a cosmic reset.
Exactly. They even suggest that we as a species might be able to detect these Big Bang events in the far future.
That would be wild.
Maybe even influence them.
Oh, wow.
So think about that framework when we consider what Reactorcore has to say about life and death.
Okay.
They argue that while our physical bodies have a lifespan,
Really, we all die eventually.
our souls or some essential part of our being might be immortal.
Oh, so even if our bodies die, some part of us keeps going.
That's the idea they're putting forward.
That's a concept that a lot of spiritual traditions talk about, too.
There are definitely parallels there.
Yeah.
But Reactorcore doesn't tie their ideas to any specific religion or spiritual system.
So it's more of a general concept.
Exactly. They're more interested in exploring the implications of that concept.
Okay, I could see that.
So what kind of implications are we talking about? If some part of us survives death, what does that mean for how we understand our existence?
Yeah, good question.
Imagine if some part of you continues to exist after your physical body is gone. Maybe it experiences other lives, or maybe it exists in some other realm.
Like another dimension or something.
Right. It completely changes how we view mortality, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. If death isn't the end,
Right. It's not an ending.
but a transition to something else.
Exactly. A door to a new experience.
Wow.
And that's the idea that Reactorcore is exploring.
I like it.
And they suggest that this potential immortality might not be all blissful and easy.
Oh, okay, so there's a catch.
They actually use the phrase, not necessarily a fun thing.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you think they mean by that?
Well, imagine existing for eons.
Yeah.
You would witness civilizations rise and false stars being born and dying.
It would be a lot to take in.
It could be awe-inspiring, but also overwhelming, even terrifying.
Like too much of a good thing.
Exactly, like the vastness and eternity of the universe could become a heavy burden.
Yeah,
I can see that.
rather than a source of wonder.
It's like, would you get bored after a while? That's the question, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a really fascinating perspective. They seem to be saying that immortality, even if we could achieve it, might come with a whole new set of challenges and complications.
Not a simple happily ever after.
So how do you think Reactor Core wants us to think about life and death, given their view of the universe?
Yeah. What's the takeaway for us?
I think they're encouraging us to embrace the mystery,
Okay.
to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers, but also to be open to the possibility
Yeah.
that our existence might extend beyond the limits of our physical bodies.
I think that's a healthy way to think about it.
It makes you think about life and death in a completely different way.
It does.
And even though Reactor Core's perspective is speculative,
Right. It's just one perspective.
it gives us this unique lens through which to view the universe and our place within it.
I think that's the beauty of these kinds of conversations.
Yeah. You know what I find really powerful is that their message seems to be one of hope, not despair.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if the universe is indifferent to our existence,
Mm-hmm.
even if our lives are finite, there's still so much beauty and wonder to be found in the present moment.
That's a really important point, I think.
So we've been on quite a journey today.
We have.
We've explored the mind of Reactor Core, a game designer who dares to think big about the universe, life, death, and everything in between.
And it's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity
Yeah.
and given you new ways to think about the universe and your place in it. So as you go about your day,
Mm-hmm.
remember to look up at the stars and marvel at this incredible reality we find ourselves in,
Absolutely.
and never stop questioning, exploring, and imagining what might lie beyond the limits of what we know.
Until next time, keep diving deep.